Hello, my friends. Welcome back to InkWell English. Imagine being 12 years old, standing before the cold stone gate of a convent. Your mother is gone. Your father leaves your small bag beside you, says goodbye, and walks away, never to return. Behind that gate, everything is black and white. The walls, the clothes, even your future. You have no money, no powerful family, and almost no hope. But before the gate closes on your old life, someone places a needle and thread in your hands. That tiny needle will one day help you escape poverty, challenge the rules of society, and change the way millions of women dress. The abandoned girl's name was Gabrielle Chanel. The world would later call her Coco. But how did a forgotten orphan turn the darkest memories of her childhood into one of the most powerful fashion empires in history? Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel was born in 1883 into a family that was always moving and always struggling. Her mother washed clothes for others. Her father sold cheap goods in street markets and was rarely home. When Gabrielle was 11, her mother became seriously ill. A year later, she died. Instead of raising his children, Gabrielle's father separated them. The boys were sent to work, while Gabrielle and her sisters were taken to an orphanage inside the convent of Aubazine. For 6 years, Gabrielle lived among silent corridors, strict routines, plain black dresses, and clean white walls. She later tried to hide this painful childhood, even inventing stories about her past. But the convent never truly left her. Its black and white colors, simple shapes, and hatred of useless decoration would one day become the language of Chanel. Gabrielle had unknowingly discovered a powerful secret. Even pain could be redesigned. Yet before she could transform fashion, she first had to transform herself, and that transformation began with a new name. At 18, Gabrielle left the convent with one useful skill. She could sew. By day, she worked as a seamstress. By night, she sang in crowded cafes filled with soldiers and young men. She was not the strongest singer, but people remembered her. One song she performed again and again told of a girl named Coco. Soon, the audience began calling her by that name. And something changed. Gabrielle, the abandoned orphan, belonged to the past. Coco sounded sharper, freer, and impossible to ignore. It was more than a nickname. It was the first identity she created for herself. But a new name could not open the doors that poverty and society had closed. To enter the world of wealth and fashion, Coco would have to depend on powerful men. Those connections would open the door to her success. But years later, they would also place her reputation in danger. Through a wealthy young man named Etienne Balsan, Coco entered a world she had only watched from a distance. His country estate was filled with horses, servants, parties, and women dressed in the most expensive fashions in France. But Coco noticed something others ignored. Those women could barely move. Their hats were crowded with feathers and ribbons. Their heavy dresses swept the floor, while tightly laced corsets made breathing, and even walking, difficult. To Coco, this was not elegance. It was a beautiful prison. She refused to dress that way. She borrowed men's shirts and riding clothes, cut away unnecessary decoration, and made small, simple hats for herself. The wealthy women laughed at first. Then they began asking where they could buy one. Coco had discovered the weakness in an entire industry. Women did not need more decoration. They needed freedom. But recognizing the problem was only the beginning. To challenge Paris fashion, Coco needed money, a shop, and someone willing to believe in her. At Balson's estate, Coco met Arthur "Boy" Capel, a wealthy English businessman who saw more than her beauty. He recognized her ambition and took her ideas seriously. When Coco said she wanted her own shop, Boy lent her the money. In 1910, she opened a small hat boutique in Paris. Her clean, elegant designs quickly attracted fashionable women. 3 years later, she expanded to Deauville and began creating comfortable clothes unlike anything Paris had seen. For the first time, Coco was not asking society for a place. She was cutting one for herself. But could one small boutique truly defeat corsets, heavy dresses, and centuries of fashion rules? Then, in 1914, history changed everything. In 1914, the First World War began, and millions of men left for the battlefield. Suddenly, women had to run shops, work in hospitals and factories, drive ambulances, and keep families alive. The war turned comfort from a personal preference into a practical necessity. Clothes now had to serve the women wearing them. Coco saw the opportunity before most designers did. She began using jersey, a soft, stretchy fabric considered too cheap for elegant clothing. She turned it into simple dresses, loose jackets, and skirts that moved with the body. Her designs carried a radical message. A woman was not decoration. She was a person who needed to walk, work, breathe, and live. By the end of the war, Chanel was famous, wealthy, and financially independent. But just as she reached the life she had fought for, the man who had believed in her first was about to be taken away. In December 1919, Boy Capel died in a car accident. He was the first man who had believed in Coco's mind, not only her charm. His death broke something inside her that success could not repair. Friends said she never truly recovered. But Coco did what she had learned to do since childhood. She transformed pain into creation. She returned to work with even greater intensity, turning grief into color, shape, and style. Yet the most important truth about Chanel was not simply that she survived loss. It was that every wound in her life became part of the image she gave the world. And the greatest example of that transformation was still ahead. In 1921, Coco Chanel moved beyond clothing and created something invisible, but unforgettable. She worked with perfumer Ernest Bose, who presented several numbered scents. Coco chose the 5th sample and gave it a name as simple as the bottle itself: Chanel No. 5. At a time when perfumes were sold in decorative bottles with romantic names, hers looked almost severe, a clear square of glass. But the fragrance felt modern, mysterious, and unlike anything women had worn before. Then came another transformation. In 1926, Coco introduced a short black dress with no feathers, lace, or jewels. Black had belonged to funerals, servants, and poverty. Chanel made it elegant. She was not only designing clothes, she was changing the meaning of symbols. But perfume and one black dress were only the beginning. Soon, even the way women wore their hair, jewelry, and skin would begin to follow Coco. By the 1930s, Coco Chanel stood at the top of the fashion world. She employed thousands of workers, dressed film stars and princesses, and became one of the richest women in France. The orphan girl once told she had no place in society, now had her own name above the door. Everything she touched became fashionable. Short hair, fake pearls, simple suits, even suntanned skin. Women across the world copied her because Chanel offered more than beauty. She offered freedom. It seemed nothing could stop her. But success does not erase every flaw, and power can reveal parts of a person that fame tries to hide. So what happened when war returned? And Coco Chanel faced the darkest choices of her life. In 1939, the Second World War began, and Chanel closed her fashion house. During the German occupation of Paris, she continued living at the Ritz Hotel, where many German officers stayed. She also began a relationship with a German officer. Powerful men had once helped her enter the world of fashion. Now, during the occupation, another powerful connection placed everything she had built at risk. After the war, Chanel was questioned, and many French people viewed her as a traitor. Some records suggest her connection to the occupiers may have gone beyond romance, though historians still debate how deeply she was involved. She soon left France and spent nearly 10 years in Switzerland. Wealthy, famous, but unwelcome in her own country. This was the chapter Chanel could never redesign into elegance. Yet her story was not finished. The most revealing moment of her life would come when she returned, at an age when the world believed she had nothing left to offer. In 1954, at the age of 71, Coco Chanel returned to Paris and reopened her fashion house. The French press was ruthless. Critics called her collection old-fashioned, lifeless, and trapped in the past. Younger male designers now ruled fashion, bringing back tight waists and rigid skirts. To many, Chanel looked like a ghost trying to reclaim a world that had moved on. But across the Atlantic, American women saw something different. They wanted clothes they could work in, travel in, and live in. Chanel's soft tweed jackets, simple skirts, and clean lines gave them exactly that. Orders began to rise, and the woman Paris had dismissed started climbing back to the top. Then she created another symbol of freedom, a handbag that allowed women to keep their hands free. It completed the idea Chanel had pursued since her youth, that elegance should never become a prison. But how long could a woman who refused to stop working continue? In 1955, Chanel introduced a quilted handbag with a long shoulder strap. It seemed like a small change, but it gave women something fashion had often denied them: free hands. Within a few years, Coco was once again at the top. She never retired. Even at 87, she was still preparing a new collection inside the Ritz Hotel. Then, on January 10, 1971, she died quietly in the place that had witnessed both her glory and her disgrace. But death did not end her influence. The orphan who once owned almost nothing had built the name that would become a global empire. Yet her deepest legacy went beyond a perfume, a dress, or a handbag. It was the identity she had stitched from everything meant to break her. Coco Chanel's story was never only about fashion. She was abandoned at a convent gate yet she later dressed the society that once had no place for her. She could not escape the black and white of her childhood, so she transformed those colors into symbols of elegance. Even the name Coco was not given to her at birth. It came from a simple cafe song. She built a new identity from fragments the world considered unimportant. That may be the deepest truth of her life. Chanel did not wait for someone to tell her who she could become. She designed herself, carefully, boldly, and sometimes imperfectly. Her famous words still remain. Fashion fades, but style remains. But what does her journey have to do with you, your future, and the English words you are learning right now? Every new English word you learn is like one small stitch. At first, a single stitch may seem unimportant, but repeated day after day, it becomes a pattern. Then, a shape, and eventually, something entirely your own. Coco Chanel did not receive a perfect life. She worked with what she had: pain, discipline, a needle, and the courage to begin again. You are doing something similar each time you understand a sentence that once felt impossible. No one can build your future for you, but no one can take away the progress you create. So, perhaps the real question is not where you started. It is this: what are you quietly creating, one word and one day at a time? Before we leave Coco's story, there is one question only you can answer. So, my friend, what stayed with you most from Coco Chanel's story? Was it the convent gate that closed behind a 12-year-old girl? The black dress that transformed sadness into elegance? Or the 71-year-old woman who returned when everyone believed she was finished? Share your answer in the comments below. Your words may inspire another learner who is still taking their first step. And remember, your beginning does not decide your ending. What matters is what you create from it, one small stitch at a time. Thank you for listening to InkWell English. Until next time, take care and never stop learning.